Be the observer. But that's what life's about. Being the observer. How much can you get with what you're observing? Right? That to me is the measure of communication, because the meaning of your communication is the response you receive.
Welcome to the Manders Mindset Podcast. Here you'll find both monologue and interviews of entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, and a variety of other people, where your host Amanda Russo will discuss her own mindset and perspective and her guest mindset and perspective on the world around us. Manders and her guests will help explain to you how shifting your mindset will shift your life.
Hey guys, welcome to Amanda's Mindset. As always, I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and I am here with a very special guest. It is a long overdue. Cyndy Lopez is back on the podcast. She was on episode number 17. It's been a while. We did part 1, and we are back for part 2.
Yay!
And Cyndy, how are you?
I'm well, and I am very excited to sit and talk with you.
I'm excited to sit and talk with you. So catch me up. What's been up between when we last chatted and now?
So, since the last time we spoke, I have launched kind of like a flagship class teaching communication, and we learn techniques from NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, because I am a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming since 2014. I've used it in my practice in the way that I read cards. And now there's been an interest. Mind you, I've done this thing where I even had my mentor come on and we spoke about what NLP is, and certain people were like, okay, this is cool, but didn't really get it, right? And then fast forward, there's just been this random spark and interest from people to learn. And here we are. This is what we've been up to. Yeah, so I put out a post and I made it ominous and weird on purpose. And I said, if you want to sign up, you need to hit my DM and answer the question. And people were going in my DMs and saying, hey, I'm ready to answer the question. And I made it very simple on purpose. And I made the directive very clear. It was like, why? And the answer to this will count as your response. And I had to put that boundary there so that I could pick out certain people, right? So there were certain people that, let's say, answered in their own way or didn't understand why. What do you mean why? Can you explain further? Or there was a lot of different styles of communication. So I ended up picking 12 people. Right now, we are at 11 of them are still on board. 11 of them, okay? Which you might be like, okay, well, why is there 11? Well, because NLP, when you learn communications like NLP, because NLP is a label, right? Neuro-linguistic programming. There's that. There's other programs that are like that and are labeled other things. So when you have that, I want to say, it's like a situation where, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. Please tell me you can edit that out. I'm like, hold on. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I got these 12 people. And when we're talking about NLP and we're talking about communication models, we're talking about excellence, right? There's a lot to it. When I'm doing this course right now with these 11 women now, I'm asking a lot of them. It takes a lot to have that much courage to allow someone to pick apart your language and it be for the better, just so that we can learn together, right? It takes a lot. I think that takes courage. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what's been up.
Okay. So I'm curious if you can explain more basic level of how this works.
Okay. So NLP is a set of therapeutic modalities, right? Let's just call it like that. Now, when we're talking about NLP, we're talking about, well, first, I'll tell you this. The people, when you look it up, the people that you're going to find are John Grinder and Richard Bandler, right? But that in itself is like, okay, it's not just them two, right? There's so many other people that are accredited to NLP. So this is like a bunch of therapeutic modalities that have people like Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, Frank Farelli. These are all, and even more so that we're talking about like Ivan Pavlov and like famous people that we could, learn, let's say, about in psychology class. What they've done is they've condensed their learnings from all of these different schools of thought and created a set of tools that are meant to be sharp and meant to be used for rapid change, okay, in a person's behavior, should they choose. Okay, that's what happens. Now, NLP talks and teaches about a person's language. Why is that important? Language is the map to every single person that you meet. A lot of people may have seen me post things like, get the map, be the observer, get the map, okay? Right? There's a reason for that, because most people will give you more than you need in one conversation. In one sentence, okay? Because right now I'm in class with the girls, right? And we're talking about different, let's say, phrases. Like, I want to ask you, if I said, if you heard me talking on the phone and I said, I think we sleep better with the TV off, what could you deduce from the conversation that you just had me had?
That you were talking to someone about whether you should sleep with the TV on or not.
Okay. Now, just for the sake of, so we can get this quick, right? I'm going to tell you this. Right in that, we heard some kinesthetic language, which lets me know that this person is a feeler. The other thing that we've learned is that this person has slept with the TV off before, and on, to understand that there was a difference. Okay. We've also heard there that they're slept with another person. There's not only one person that's been sleeping or not sleeping. Do you get what I mean? So just in that phrase that you could have overheard, there's so much information about this person. Now, when you get into kinesthetic language, now you're talking about a kinesthetic person, possibly, who's leaning on a preferred system. Okay. Now, there's a lot of words here. The point is, this is a way to point out someone's programming, the way they've programmed themselves and the way that they've allowed themselves to be programmed by the world. With these words, we are able to, let's say, flip them on a paradigm and allow these people and self, because really it starts with self, to reprogram themselves and take back a position of power. A lot of people's language uses things like deletions, distortions, generalizations. Okay. So, for example, if I was to say, oh, Manders, I love you, but everything that came before that but is irrelevant now, because what I really want to talk about is going to be after that but. No matter if we're talking about something positive or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, that is just a straight deletion. Like if I told you right now, and here's the issue, right? So the subconscious, if we talk about the subconscious, really doesn't process negatives, right? So like if I was to tell you, Manders, please don't think of a pink elephant. What did you just do? Right? Why does that happen? And I know you love me, and I know we're having a serious conversation. You would have wanted to not think of a pink elephant, But here's the thing. Language is like this. If we really didn't want you to think of a pink elephant, Manders, wouldn't I say, hey, could you do me a favor and think of a blue coyote? I could have said anything else. This is language. Communication is more than what we think it is. It's so much deeper. Because if I sit here and I have a conversation with you and I'm the only one speaking, now you're getting my map. Do you get what I mean? Now, you want to give and get maps. That's okay. But you want to be able to speak to somebody in the right way. Because what if you're the kind of person that loud voices make you shut down? If I know that, I might want to use this kind of tone with you if communicating with you is important to me. Does that make sense?
Right up.
Okay. That's like these little bits and pieces about how we communicate with others and what we can get by just a few words. Now, even more so in eye movements. Okay. Sensory acuity. Just watching you right now, you're watching my hand movements. So I'm doing a lot of hand movements here and I'm watching your eyes here. Okay. So this is also a part of NLP, having sensory acuity enough to read someone's body language in order to receive where they store things.
Okay. Interesting.
So that is like maybe the tip of the iceberg of what we do in NLP. So the girls know when we are in class, it is free range to check anyone's language. If I hear a but, if I hear language that is dismissive of yourself or putting something on someone else, it is important that we check each other, right? And help each other out. That's what we do. So being able to break our own language down to understand ourselves, to better serve in our conversations with others.
Okay. So how do you go about breaking down language?
Oh, great question. Great question. All right. So why don't we start by this? Why don't you tell me a little bit about your day? Honest to goodness. Just let her rip. Just talk a little bit and let's see what's going on in your language.
About my day?
Yeah, whatever. Like, how was your day?
It was good. I went to the gym. I ate some food throughout the day.
Okay.
I went on a walk.
Okay.
I FaceTimed Brad. I had a meeting.
Okay.
And I came here.
Okay. Now, did anything happen throughout your day that may have been notable?
Nothing that, I don't know.
Nothing?
Nothing crazy.
I didn't say anything about crazy.
Notable. Not really. Nothing out of the ordinary. You say notable and I think out of the ordinary.
Okay. And nothing? Okay. Cool. So, look, there's nothing there. Now, here's the thing. I haven't asked you any questions. So now let me ask you, how did you feel when you were in traffic?
I mean, I did my lipstick, so I just multitasked, so it wasn't awful.
Okay. And let me ask you this. Are you right-handed or left-handed, Manders?
Right-handed.
You're right-handed. And so what you just did was you went off to your auditory level line. So what happened was I asked you a question and you most likely repeated it to yourself or repeated the question with my voice in there. So we hear it again, and then we give an answer. Now, this is what I mean when I say we do these kinds of things. Now, I just slipped that one in there. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. So it felt good to be in traffic. I'm asking a question. So for those of you who can't see her eyes are processing super hard. Like she is going all over the place, accessing. Okay, so talk to me. So it felt good.
So I don't
traffic.
It didn't feel good, but it didn't feel bad.
Okay, what was it?
Just neutral.
It was neutral. Okay, nothing about it made any feeling come up. or arise?
I mean, it wasn't the best feelings, but I wouldn't say that it was.
Okay, so it wasn't the best feelings. So here's the thing. So here's your language. It wasn't the best feeling. So I wanted to hear some more language. That way we can pull some stuff out, okay? Wasn't the best feeling. So wasn't has the N apostrophe T, okay? Wasn't has the N apostrophe T. That's the not.
Yeah.
So that means, that means that that's a negative. So let's remove the negative. And what are you actually saying? You said it wasn't actually bad. So that means that it was actually bad. There's underneath the language. Do you see like what I mean? Like how many times have we seen memes that they mean well, but the language is actually suggesting the opposite of what we think it's actually suggesting.
Do you have an example?
Sure. I actually do. I have to go into my phone because I just had some the other day. This was a part of the class. Very important. This is like, I've had a field day rewriting other horrible language.
And it's interesting too about you saying wasn't being a negative, because in my head, I was thinking saying it wasn't that bad is like implying that it's not as worse.
Yes.
Because I'm not embracing the toxic positivity saying it's a good thing, because it wasn't necessarily a good thing. But I'm also not being like negative Nelly by bitching.
So the details are insignificant.
No, I
right?
That was just what my head was.
So I'm just letting you know, because it's literally a line that we talk about in NLP, because we can get caught up by semantics and then we're just like, yeah, but what about this? And what about that? But here it is. The details are insignificant because what matters is the language in order to get to the program. And then if the program is running correctly, we can leave it alone. If the program is running something that is, let's say, less than good for us, then we're going to want to leave that. I'm going to give you this example, okay? So this was like a little thing I saw, okay? So for anybody who can't see it, super cute. I would have posted this, like, for sure. I love bunnies, right? Like, I would have definitely posted this. Here's the thing.
It's a bunny, and what does it say?
It says soft, but not available for mistreatment. So let's break this language down. Soft, but not. But would delete the soft part. So soft is gone. Now we are left with not available for mistreatment. So not available for mistreatment, not is a deletion. So we're going to take not out. Available for mistreatment. That seems like the opposite of what we want here. That's a program now. So this is a program running in the subconscious, while our conscious mind can take breaks because we go to sleep, we take naps. Our conscious mind could take breaks. Our subconscious mind, there are zero breaks. Zero breaks. The subconscious mind is always moving. It's always on duty. So it's creating new programs, new things in that way. I could show you another one. And the funny thing is, you could actually fix some of these just by taking out like one or two pieces. This one says, don't spiral, evolve. If I were to take down this language, it would say spiral, evolve. Well, I'd like to avert from the spiral altogether. So why don't we just say evolve? Evolve would have been perfectly fine. A lot of times us as humans, we add what I like to call sauce. We want to add sauce on everything, right? Like literally, like I can show you a picture and ask you what you think about it. Or I had a fake conversation, right? On my IG stories. I made this conversation as an example, okay? I literally wrote to myself so that it could look like a text message. And it was an example of two people having a conversation for the purpose of showing people how language works, right? I asked people, what do you notice about the language? And do you know that people were actually answering with whose side they were on? And this is a fake conversation. Humans add sauce on everything. People were like, oh, this is their boyfriend and girlfriend, or that was their best friend. And it was like a random conversation that I made up with certain keywords in order to make a point. So that should shed some light on what I mean by that. Meaning, like, you, not necessarily you, but people can at times go ahead and perceive something and then add more to it that nobody's given to them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's a little bit more of how that works.
Okay. And now when you say they add more to it, is it usually like more to the story? Is it
The perception.
okay?
So, for example, if you and I are in a car and we're driving by a woman that is at the bus stop sitting down, okay, what some people might do is go, that old lady's been working her whole life. Look at her at the bus stop. We don't even know this lady. Never met her a day in our life. For all you know, she's taking a break at the bus stop real quick because somebody's going to pick her up. We don't know people's lives, right? We have no freaking clue. And a lot of us will add our own sentiments, our own filter on things without the actual proof, right? So in NLP, we talk about presuppositions and how to pick those out. And presuppositions just a tactical way of assuming something. So I'm just going to go about it in a different way. So like we just talked about that earlier when I said, if you heard me talk about a conversation with someone, I say, hey, we sleep better. I feel like we sleep better with the TV off. There is a lot that we could deduce from that. Remember? Right? So there was so much those are presupposed off of what was said.
Yep.
So if I said to you, hey, if this is another example, if you heard me on the phone, if that cat meows again, I'll have to put him out. This is one of my favorite examples because I usually get people say they're annoyed. I'll ask you like, okay, what do you think? What can you deduce from that? Oh, I think they're upset. They're annoyed with the cat. Who said they're upset or they're annoyed? We don't know that. That's sauce. Like, there's no reason to deduce that she's annoyed because she said that or he said that. We still don't know. Right? So we have to get what people are really saying to us without our own perceptions getting in the way. Yeah.
Okay. And how do we do that?
By sharpening our communication skills, which is what I've been, going crazy over online because I just feel like I finally see like the light at the end of the tunnel as far as other people getting it, because it is a far out concept, right? Especially when it's unfamiliar. But the reality of it is a lot of people are trained in NLP. Have you ever heard of Tony Robbins?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Tony Robbins is a student off the branch of Richard Bandler. He went off and he created his own system off of what he learned in NLP. His system is called NAC. Okay. So there's a lot of people that are actually trained in these things. And I think it's important that we learn and have these tools within us because it's so important in terms of conversation. Once you have someone's language, they will let you know how to speak to them and it will open them up. And then now all of a sudden it's a great conversation.
And now how did you first discover this?
So in 2000, I was at home or out somewhere, whatever. My husband called me, right? He had gone to a 2-day, he was on the first day. He had gone to this 2-day course that was going to be free. And it was open to the public. And his friend invited him. And he didn't know what it was. So he was like, I'm going to go check it out. He went, and during the lunch hour, he called me and he said, we need to do this. Please come with me tomorrow, because it was going to be the second day. So I went with him, of course, and I saw him facilitate his language patterns on multiple people and make change. I'm talking about in less than 5 minutes, a change of perspective that comes straight from the person. No funny business, just straight to the person from the person, right in front of everybody. I was hooked. I could only see that for the next until now. So even if you look back at all of my posts, in my very, very, very first post, you see that I make sure that I mention that I am trained in NLP and NCLS. It's something that I always disclose before I speak to people so that they understand that I am trained in this. Because it is something that, when people see my class, one of the very first thing I talk about is ecology, right? Everything has to be ecological because of how intense these tools are.
Okay. Now, what does NCLE stand for?
NCLS?
NCLS.
All right, New Code Linguistic Strategies. So that was invented and founded by David R. Behan. Now, David Behan is directly he was learning under Tad James. Tad James is off of those original people from NLP. Okay, so it's like a line. Okay. Yeah, I know. So NCLS is New Code Linguistic Strategies. Okay. Now, David is who I learned from, who certified me. David's language is just pretty much superior to many of the people that I've ever met in my life. Okay. He's like this. Anybody that I've ever perceived needed help or change or anything like that, I've sent them his way. Learning his method is probably 100 times stronger than what NLP is. But I do feel that every single person should have an NLP foundation before moving on to understanding NCLS and how to use it.
Okay. Now, why do you say it's 100 times stronger?
Well, because NLP we're going to beat around the bush, okay? We're going to learn all these things. We're going to, it's almost like, okay, for example, in NLP, one of the things you get certified in is timeline therapy. Okay, and that is taking somebody through their timeline and, it's a therapy modality. However, the process is a lot longer than NCLS. NCLS, we don't have to drag you back through any bad memory. You don't have to drag you back through your life. It is literally just what it is right now in your language. Spitting it around to the point where at the end of a conversation, most people, they can't even find the problem anymore. They can't find what we were even speaking about because they're like, it's not even important, right? It gets to the root of the language. When we get to the root of the language, we can usually understand further what a person is truly going through or talking to us about.
Okay. And now NLP doesn't go
as deep. I think that it goes deep, but I feel like NCLS, like if we were going to compare them as knives, like kitchen knives, I would say NLP is that great, reliable knife that you could, trust. Cool. And I would say that NCLS is that super, super sharp knife that nobody else in the house is allowed to use unless they know how to use knives. That's NCLS. NCLS is like cut a piece of paper in half. Like, that's what I mean.
Okay.
So they're both wonderful tools. I feel like, as a matter of fact, I will only teach NCLS to people who've learned NLP. It does go hand in hand for me.
Why?
It goes hand in hand because in order to understand why these language patterns are even important, there should be a level of understanding of language patterns. And I do think that NLP does that. It gives a basic understanding of the language patterns. I think NCLS, it gives more of a advanced look at the language. And NLP is the foundation of that because it is a branch off of NLP.
Okay. Now, are there other branches off of NLP?
Absolutely. I just told you one, NAC, which is Tony Robbins.
And now what is NAC? What does that stand for? Do you know?
I think it's like natural. I would have to look it up. I know that's
so there's a bunch of different branches.
So
okay.
What's happened is a lot of people, they learn their NLP and they branch off using whatever techniques that they've come up with through this to teach their own brand.
Okay.
Own stuff.
Okay.
It has happened many times. Not everybody's has stuck. Some people's are more heard of than others. The point, though, is NLP being the base of it.
Okay. I gotcha. Now, like Tony Robbins started a branch off of NLP. Yeah. Can just anybody start a branch off of it? Like,
well,
how do you?
Well, it's not that it's truly a branch. It's not recognized as NLP. That's why he had to change the name. Right. So it's really that's the truth. He was trained with Tad James and, those original people. Right. So it's very similar, extremely similar to NLP, his programming, his program that he does for the people that he teaches.
Okay.
So, people do their own thing. Like, for example, David Behan's stuff, you could see where it came from. You could see that it came from the learnings of NLP. However, he literally just made it his. He advanced it to the point where it's just language patterns, like flipping stuff. It's just incredible, really.
So by flipping stuff, like flipping the words or flipping?
So flipping perspectives. Okay. Right? Because someone could say one thing and really be meaning a whole totally different thing. Right? And helping people through their own language is so beautiful. Like you could see someone struggle for 2 seconds and then all of a sudden they're like, and then they're talking about something completely different. It is beautiful because I myself, when you're in these trainings, right? Some of the thing is like, you do have to participate. Sometimes you might be up on the stand sharing some really deep shit. Okay. And when that is going on, it almost felt like I was in a room by myself, even though there was all these people watching and hearing me talk about something very deep to me. I felt like it was just me and David. And David was able to use my language and what I was saying to help me see how I was seeing it and to allow me choice in that moment to change it. And I did. And when we make these changes from self without somebody else guiding us, right? Facilitation is different than me saying, okay, now you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's more like, I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to push up on your language to see what holds. Because it's so funny. Language crumbles, most of it, when you challenge it. And then we get left with the real meat and potatoes. And that's what we start talking about.
So how does language crumble?
Well, for example, someone has said to me this phrase over and over again, I've heard, I'm trying to better my communication. Well, trying is not doing, number one. It's the truth. Doing is doing, trying is trying. So one of the very first things I will say right there is that crumbled. Okay, the whole concept crumbled. Why are you even saying this to me? So you're talking to me about something that you're, quote unquote, not doing, which is also a negative. So you're doing not. Delete that suggestion. That person would be doing not. So that's another thing. When we speak to people and we're telling stories, you ever notice people say you?
Mm-hmm.
Like even right now, I said, do you ever notice? Do you? People say you a lot when they tell stories. That is also something that is programming, right? Because what happens is I think humans want to put the other person in their shoes, right? Like, and then what ends up happening is we start creating a yes model with people. So the subconscious is going, yes, yes, yes. So all of these things that we're hearing. So a person could be telling you about their freaking horrible day. And because they're saying you, and you're going, yeah, this is a program now. It's a part of the subconscious. It's running in the background. It's not fun.
So are you saying the bad day is running in your background with that other person?
That program of having a bad day, the program of even understanding or perceiving a bad day.
Oh.
Yes. So everybody is running a program for everything, right? So you run a program for the way you perceive things, you personally. So do I. Manders perceives things different than everybody else. I perceive things different than everybody else. Everyone's perceptions are unique, one to one. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So your perception comes from you. That's how it gets very deep. It gets very internal, the whole situation.
Mm. Okay. How deep can you go?
As deep as a person wants to go. That's the truth. Because all of NLP is self. Everything. The changes that happen itself. Every choice starts to open up to that person because it's self. Limitations are self. It's everything that a person puts into this communication style things that I'm talking about. If a person is putting everything into it, a person will have resounding change because it goes down to the very bottom.
Oh, I forgot what I had asked you before.
That's okay. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about being in presence when it's quiet?
Good.
This is what Eckhart Tolle does in his classes. They sit there and they just, did you feel something?
Yeah.
Right? So we're always communicating, even without language. Our bodies and our souls, all of it. We just sat there, did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there was a communication happening. I felt love and happiness, right? I don't know. That's how I felt, right? So it's really about how much a person can give. So you ask me, how deep can you go, right? Well, it's not about me. It's about the person. I can go forever, right? I'm still going.
I initially meant with the conversation.
Well, that I didn't know. I thought you were talking about NLP. I'm like, how? I thought you were asking me about that. I'm like, well, that means it depends on the person.
However you want to answer the question is fine.
Yeah.
However you perceive it.
Yes. I love that for us.
Whatever you perceive it as. That's why I don't always explain stuff.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
And speaking of explaining stuff, I want to backtrack. What made you come up with the question and word it the way you did?
Okay, so a lot of people I knew that they were going to start answering like, oh, their reasons, of why or whatever. I wanted to be able, that's going to make a noise. Sorry. I wanted to be able to understand where people were at with their own level of communication, because communication starts with self always. And communication is two people, let's say, having a conversation, two or more people having conversation. So if I say something like why, and I give you a direction with it, whatever comes up, I need that communication. For the people who needed more clarification, I can absolutely teach those people, which is fine. Now, the thing is, for this group, I needed people who are going to be able to be at this part, which is just give me an answer right now, whatever comes off the top of your head, because there are only right answers. That's the trick to this, right? A lot of people pause before they go and they do something because they need more. And really, what more do we need than the now? That's why I did it like that. Because if I have people asking me why to my why, now out of these 100 candidates, now I have to start explaining my whys and why is it and what does this mean? And, really in reality, when I go and I ask somebody why and they literally just give me their why like that to me feels ready. Right? That's ready. And because it's a free class, this needs to be somebody that really wants it, right? That's going to be ready to just do something because it's about taking action, right? It's excellence. When I say excellence, it's because too many people are caught up in what perfection is. Perfection is just, to me, it's non-existent, right? Like, what does perfection even mean? Perfection, a lot of people talk about perfection and really it just is like a ends, like a means to an end. It's like, okay, it's perfect now. Like, okay, so what does that mean? If it's perfect, does that mean it doesn't ever get updated? Because I kind of like when stuff updates. Like, right? Like my phone, even if I have the same phone, if this bitch keeps updating, we're going to be just fine. Okay? It's going to evolve. This is what I mean, right? I need that. I need the evolving of something, right? Excellence is that to me. To evolve, to change, to go, to be flexible. So, that's the reason for the why. And that's the reason for that little trick at the bottom, which is your answer to this question will count as your answer. Like, your response to this question will count as your answer. So anybody who responded to that, no matter what they responded, counted as their response. And at that point, I was able to deduce, okay, who can I teach right now in 20 hours tops, everything that I got. And that's how I deduced it.
You touched upon a lot of people get caught up in perfect. Why do you think that is?
I think it's programming. I think it's society, right? Perfect, whether it be school and grades or body, right? Perception of the body, right? Like if we really think about things like what the hell is perfection? Who wants to be perfect? What does that mean? Does that mean that it's just going to get stale at some point? I want to be excellent. This is just, to me, is a way of living, right? Just to be at the best of self every day, because that's all we can do, right? Anything else is a false narrative, really. And I think that it's easy to do things like that with social media around, get caught up in perfect. And then when you push upon someone's language, what do you think perfect is, right? That falls apart because then we get into semantics. Well, perfect is like this or like that. And really it's perfect to a person. So really there's no overall thing to hold it down. But excellence is different.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love how you said excellence is a way of living. I like that.
Yeah, it is. It feels good to be excellent every day, right? So if whatever, like I fuck up, I excellently get back up, okay? Right? Mm-hmm. I excellently love myself. I excellently give grace, right? I excellently am flexible to whatever is happening in my life, being present, being the observer. Right?
Hey, that's what we talked about a lot last time. That was the name of the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. Be the observer, but that's what life's about. Mm-hmm. Being the observer. How much can you get with what you're observing? Right? That to me is the measure of communication, because the meaning of your communication is the response you receive.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I think I agree with that. I've never heard it before, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Because it is true. So, right, like, if you really think about what that's being said,
it takes a second to
the meaning of your communication is the response you receive. Sometimes we think communicating one thing and then a person responds in a way we don't want them to respond. And then we're like, why'd they respond like that? Well, what were you communicating? Yeah.
And now when you talked about flexible and being flexible, what were you referring to there?
So being flexible, that's a part of the 12 presuppositions of NLP, right? And what I just quoted for you about communication, that is also in the presuppositions of NLP. So when I'm talking about being flexible, I'm talking about the person who is most flexible, the person or the system that is most flexible controls the system. Let me ask you, if someone or something does not bend, what does it do?
It breaks.
That's right. The person who is most flexible controls the system.
Okay.
Flexibility controls the system. The person who gives themselves options controls the system. And when I say system, I mean their own system, their programming. We all have programming. It's personal to us from our upbringing, what we see, what we listen to, the people we decide to hang out with, the conversations that we decide to have.
So what did you call these things? The
Presuppositions
presuppositions?
of NLP. Yes.
And what are those? What does that mean, the presuppositions?
So a presupposition is what? Something we can use to tactically assume something right before a conversation or a debate, let's say, right?
Huh?
So a presupposition in NLP is the things that we can definitely presuppose before going in, right? Before going into a conversation or communication with someone. That's what I mean. So the 12 of them, obviously, I'm not going to go through each and every 12, but one of my favorite of the 12 is the meaning of your communication is the response you receive. So that means, and this is another one, there are no resistant people. There are only inflexible communicators. So this is something we can assume. Instead of thinking that, oh, I went to go speak to Amanda and I felt like she was resistant. Well, hold on. That means that you, as in me, right? That means that I was being inflexible with my own communication. Because if I was flexible with my communication, I would have known how to communicate with you. Some people want to trump other people's form of communication. Like, I want to communicate like this, the way I talk. Okay. So that means that's inflexibility.
Okay.
I want to communicate to understand the person that's sitting across from me. So the way that I speak to Amanda is tailor fit to speak to Amanda.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, what's funny is that even in this recording, you'll see, right, as you're speaking and you're talking to me, you're doing this and I'm doing the same thing back. This is a model that I'm doing to show an example right now, how even the way that your face changes when I'm modeling how you're doing things. So I'm coming from your model of the world in order to communicate because it's important to me. Some people get so caught up in, oh, I got to be like authentic. This is authentically me. I may be, moving around a little bit more like you right now. Now, this is a form of rapport. Okay. And so when you are building rapport with someone, you can see it in their physiology and their face will light up. Right. And then they're more inclined to talk. This is great. These are the communication skills that we need to focus on in order to be better communicators to the people around us.
Okay. Now, to be better communicators, simple piece of advice that you have.
To be a better communicator?
What's the most simple piece of advice you have?
Okay, I'm going to pretend to anyone who's listening right now, you are a pretend student of mine, okay? I need you to understand your assignment. You turn this in whenever you want. Starting now, okay? removing all negatives from the vocabulary. Practice. See how that feels. See what that sounds like, right? Just test it out for one day. It's a cool assignment. Trust me. It's actually something that can rewire programming as far as the way we communicate. There's always a better way to say something.
Okay. I like that. There's always a better way to say something. Okay. Well, now I've started wrapping up my podcast in a new way.
Oh, wonderful.
Since we've last done part 1.
Okay.
Have you heard of Jay Shetty?
Of course.
You never know. Yeah. Do you know of his podcast, On Purpose?
I've heard of it. I've never heard it.
Okay, no, that's fine. But he ends his podcast with 2 segments, and I've started taking those segments.
Mm-hmm.
So the first segment is the many sides to us, and there's 5 questions, and they have to be answered in 1 word each.
Sure.
Okay. Number 1, what is 1 word someone who is meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
Eccentric.
Number 2, what is 1 word that someone who knows you extremely well would use to describe you as?
Loving.
Number 3, what is 1 word you'd use to describe yourself?
Excellent.
Number 4, what is 1 word that someone, if they didn't like you or agree with your mindset, would use to describe you as? And not like a random internet troll. That was Jay Shetty's example to somebody.
Okay.
So that he
So if somebody didn't like me, what would they say about me?
1 word.
1 word.
You do.
Annoying.
Okay. What is 1 word you're trying to embody right now?
I would say that I am embodying grace.
Okay. Second segment is the final 5. And these can be answered in a sentence. What is the best advice you've heard or received?
Do it anyway.
Why do you say that was the best?
Because it can be applied in any situation that I can make up in my mind. And I got myself through a lot of weird in my mind things with that statement. Do it anyway.
Okay. Number 2, what is the worst advice you've heard or received?
I would say that the worst advice I had ever received was, it's difficult to even pin down one because it's really bad advice. I have so many examples.
So we can dig more if you want to give 2.
Yeah, I've had people say, you should care about what people are saying about you, which is so opposite of anything I've ever heard. Like, what? And then I've also heard things like very fear-based advice, like preparing to fail. You should prepare to fail, right? That one I actually abided by for a little bit, which was very weird. And now I live a different life and I prepare to win every day. And I have a win every day. I look for my wins every day.
Now, how did you used to prepare to fail?
I would do a lot of just in case thinking. Well, just in case it doesn't work out. Just in case it doesn't, because I always felt like I don't really want to be delusional, right? I don't want to be delusional. I want to be prepared. And in reality, isn't that just another form of delusion? Making up a problem that hasn't even happened?
Well, okay. That's an interesting way to look at that. Okay. On that note, number 3. What is something that you used to value that you no longer value?
Wow, what a beautiful question. I used to value other people's opinions. And honey, the freedom that has bestowed my life from valuing my own, it's just blessing. Just period. That's a blessing. Girl, stop.
Okay. Number 4. If you could describe what you would want your legacy to be as if someone were reading it, what would you want it to say?
I would want to say she loved, period.
Okay. If you could create one law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be? And I want to know why.
I'm ready. Okay, I'm trying to use as least swear words as possible. Mind your big business, okay? Mind your business. I feel like I wish if I made that law and everybody could follow it, it would be fantastic. And the reason why is because if everybody minded their business, there would be a lot healthier people in this world. A lot more healthier people, whether it be mind, body, or soul, honey. There's too many people in too many other people's business when their garden is not being tended to. They're watching how other people garden and their garden is dead. Right?
It's true. No, it's true.
That's I would love that law. I would love that. That'd be fantastic. Everybody mind their business.
Fair. Okay, I do have one more question for you. What resources do you use on a consistent basis to help you remain successful?
Resources. Can I answer that the way I perceive it, or
However you perceive that.
okay? So resources. First of all, I love the way that question is phrased because resources are dependent on the level of creativity of a person, right? So testing myself to make sure that I have options for what I believe are resources every day. So that is a resource. Being able to use self as a resource to say, what options can you give me today? Resource, me, self, right? When we use our self as a resource, like when we're coming in and asking questions, it's like, it's so much easier life using myself as a resource, using myself as the indicator if something is right or wrong for me. That to me is the biggest resource and the biggest advice that I can give anybody. Use yourself as a resource. You have so much information within you. It's all divine. Just the way somebody else's information, you're going to go ask them something, it's divine. Just use yours. That's the biggest resource that I use is me and my connection to myself. That stillness in self, that stillness that grows within silence, right? There's certain things that when there's silence, it just almost dissipates. It's like it dissipates.
Okay. Wow. Is there any other resources? Like, or it's just
I mean, that's really it. Resources. I mean, I would say love, like, or finding the God or God, not the God, finding the pieces of God, right, in each and every moment and situation. I don't like, to me, okay, reading, awesome resource. Read books on whatever it is you want to read books on. Cool. Google, no, not so much. TikTok, no, thank you. Instagram, nope. There's, you know what I mean? So like nowadays, I think the most safe resource should be self. You should always be the last resource.
Oh, that makes sense. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
I will be opening up I would say, let's see, probably back in June. I will be opening back up in June for a new class. Okay. My classes will be coming in April, but then May and June, I will be busy traveling. I'm actually going to go meet Eckhart Tolle and Kim Ang and talk about conscious manifestation, which I'm so excited about. And when I get back, I want to go right back at it. So I'm going to be preparing to have this class to do this so that the next part of it can roll out. Because right now, I'm building a community, basically. I'm building a community of people who have excellent language in order for us to have places to go where people know how to use their language properly.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And where can they connect with you?
on Instagram. So my Instagram is Take What You Need PVD. That's TAKEWHATUYOUNED. PVD. I think it's underscore PVD. Whatever.
I'll link it.
So yes, you can find me on there. I'm usually doing readings, monthly readings, like for the zodiac signs, and I'm always doing one-to-one readings with clients. So, I'm always working.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you speaking with me. And I'm so glad we finally did this.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And thank you guys for listening to another episode of Amanda's Mindset. In case no one told you today, I'm proud of you. I'm rooting for you. And you got this. As always, if you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would leave me a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from this. And don't forget, you are only one mindset shift away from shifting your life. Thanks, guys. Until next time.